What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast. And today, my spiritual, amazing, blessed, wonderful, loving guest is Kimberly Braun. Hello, Kimberly.
Hello, great to be with you, Gary.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be anywhere at this point, but with you right now is good. With you right now is good. So Kimberly, I'm going to go ahead and read your bio real quick, and then we'll fire away. Then we'll get cooking. So, everybody, we have Kimberly Braun. She was empowered from earliest childhood experiences, has spent over a decade as a monastic nun, exploring the path of presence. With a master's in theology, she lives to inspire others to connect to and live from divine love at their center. Kimberly is a TEDx speaker and former meditation faculty at the renowned Omega Institute. Kimberly's communication skills ignite transformation on all levels, serving others to lives of greater freedom and joy. Kimberly has served tens of thousands through her writing, speaking, retreats, online courses, and community, and has released recently two new books. One of her new books is Miracles in the Naked Light, is her personal and dynamic story of building a monastery with no experience. And that's easy. Anybody could do that, right?
I know anybody could do it. That's the message.
Well, I love how you put that. Oh, my story's just like anybody else's. I'm like, no, it's not. Not anybody I know. So, anyways, but we'll fire our way into all that stuff in a moment. But I'm like I mentioned, I am contractually obligated by myself to because we're the What If You Could podcast. So I ask all my guests, Kimberly, have you ever had a what if you could moment, or do you have a what if you could thought, or a what if you could you still have left? Anything, what if you could that you'd like to share with the gang?
Yeah, what came to me when I first contemplated the question is actually the way that question arose up in me when I was 7 in relation to something. But I have lots. I live by virtue of what is possible. So I have a lot of what if you coulds. Both on practical levels, on imagination levels, on other dimension levels. So that's a dynamic question for me. But the thing that came to me that I thought was interesting was something that happened when I was 7. And what took place is I remember I was in my front yard in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I noticed that my thoughts would think things that really were desirous for me, but I didn't travel with the speed of my thought. And so I noticed that there was this gap that was not as pleasant. And I really found within myself, like, what if I could travel with the speed of thought? I lived in that moment when I was 7, I remember, and I thought, oh yeah, and everything about it made me excited to be alive. And so when I observed that that wasn't actually my reality, that I wasn't actually traveling at the speed of thought, I had to come to some resting place around that.
Right.
And what happened for me is I came to this very deep insight. Well, I'm not traveling at the speed of thought only because I just don't know how to yet.
Mm.
And I thought, well, how powerful is that? So I didn't come to the conclusion that it's not possible or it's only possible for some. I came to the clear conclusion that it was possible for me. I just didn't know how. There's a what if I could.
That's a good one. But that kind of makes me wonder, what type of parents did you have? I mean, what was your childhood like? Because not many 7-year-olds are already, thinking like that, right? I mean, I was still eating paste and who knows what I was doing at 7, but it wasn't that.
I was probably doing a lot of those things as well, I'm sure. My parents, and now I think we also perceive things in our parents. So I don't know that my view is objective, but I saw my parents as very innocent, earnest, and open-hearted people. Uh, I never experienced in them us having conversations that were existential or deeply philosophical or theological or spiritual. Like I don't remember any of that happening. I think I was very solitary in that, but I felt that I was in an environment that was a natural setup for these kinds of explorations. And I also think that some of my real early childhood experiences when I was like 5 and 6 provided a framework, a cosmology that then led me down that path that I was asking these kinds of questions. And I was noticing, it's more than the question, it's the noticing, right? The self-observation is like, oh, I think these really like, why am I not up on that cloud right now? Like I wanted to be, there would be these clouds that would be below a certain moon that would take place in the Midwest. I don't even know when it was. I don't even know if there were full moons or not, but I would notice these clouds and I really wanted to be up on that cloud. And so like thoughts like that of traveling to places that you couldn't just travel to with your thought, or having things happen in your life that wouldn't just happen because you thought it. And I've discovered, over time that there's a lot of truth in that traveling with the speed of thought. And we are learning that our thoughts are agents in the co-creative process. So I think there was a lot of truth for me as a little girl. I was very honest to know that I didn't understand and I was ignorant.
It's interesting that you had these downloads, that were coming to you from wherever what people believe in. You may believe they were from one source, other people might believe they were from another source, but you were acknowledging them. And I think as children, we have such power. We have such goodness and gifts and lightness and innocence that we probably receive so many more because we haven't learned to hate stuff and not want stuff and push stuff away and be closed off, right? So as a child, it's amazing how many things might come to us that most children just aren't connecting with like you did.
Right. I agree with you that I believe that in our young years, we're very permeable. And because my belief is we are here much more as a soul, and the body is providing an anchor point for a unique journey on the level of soul, it would make sense that when we're new into the body, there would be something in our soul that would be open, eager, innocent, pure, available for the insights of what it means to be alive. And I think it's a mystery as to why some children remember and why some children don't. And why, as we become adults, we can lose contact with perhaps very illuminative experiences. So I've been out of the monastery now for 24 years. And when I conduct my work with people, oftentimes they come back into a spaciousness where they remember things that they have forgotten. So I think that the soul memory is even there, that even with these childhood experiences, in many ways, they might still be there and they're just shrouded through enculturation and trauma and all the sorts of reasons that we forget. But it is part of the mystery of the process is to like, why was I so curious And why did I make such radical choices in view of what I perceived as true? So for me, when I had these ecstatic experiences or these insights or these illuminations, I noticed that they made me happy. I mean, that was really at a key part of it. I noticed that there was something in me that felt safe and free and felt joy and understanding. And when I noticed that, I drew my conclusions. Well, that's where I want to put all my energy. That's what life is about, period. And that to me is an unusual grace. It's like, why was I given that grace? I can say that it has been my greatest joy and still is. I'm still on that evolving path. Um, but it doesn't make a human being more or less something if they have or haven't had those remembrances. I think there's a real mystery as to why each of us evolved in the way that we do.
Yeah. And the other thing about children, since childhood, since we're kind of touching on it, is something that you believe in 100% about life as a playground. Your comment about life as a playground, and children will play and enjoy play and get creative in play, and then adults, we just stop playing, right? I mean, we don't, we just get serious, and that's like the death knell to everything. I mean, your creativity, your love, your joy, your health, your spirituality. I mean, everything goes away when you're no longer playful, right?
It's so true. I get it. And we're even taught to be real, what to be real, to be responsible. Like we have all these words that are thrown out there implicitly or explicitly that we inherit through the collective consciousness or we accept as true that create a whole idea of what it means to become fully human as an adult. And imagination gets called into question. Well, that's not real, right? You need to be in the real world. It's like, seriously? Like imagination opens up the deeper reality of things better than our cognitive processes do. And there's research that even supports it. I get it. I have been exploring lately curiosity because I know sometimes even with me doing what I'm passionate about and being in this realm of play, I'm always doing the dance of how can I too grow in my innocence. And I was remembering as a child how curious I was about everything. And I'm like, well, I'm curious now about some things, but not everything. How can I get back to that curiosity about literally everything?
Right,
Because that
right.
was so much fun.
Right. Well, because they drilled it into us, right? At school, sit still, stop fidgeting. You can run around at recess, so that's it. But the rest of the time, you have to sit still, and we're just not geared that way. I never sit still. I stand up at my desk. I'd be normally be standing up now. I mean, and don't daydream. Stop daydreaming. Get focused while you're daydreaming in class. I need you to be focused, right? And stop asking questions. Why are you asking so many questions? You're a pain in my ass. Stop asking all these questions. And so, as a kid, right, it's like, all right, well, asking questions is bad. Being curious is bad. Daydreaming is bad. Being fidgety and active is bad. And you're like, no way, dude. We should be that now or forever, right?
Yes, yes. And I don't want to belittle the intentional choices for play and forms we might call self-care. So I don't want to diminish the need for our society to take that seriously. But I would like to offer a perspective looking at it. We really want to come to the place where we're not scheduling in playtime. Like we want to live in a way, and a stepping stone is saying, I'm going to begin to schedule unplanned time. I'm going to schedule self-care. I'm going to schedule a play day. That's a stepping stone, but that's a stepping stone to learn and recover the ability to be wild and free and to trust that we'll be just as productive and creative. I'm like massively productive and creative in my life. And the greatest creativity, and the Monastery project is a great example of that. But the greatest creativity comes not from being so scheduled out that I'm on top of myself with my details, but rather that I am in the flow of my commitment to the things I've said yes to And I'm flexible and allowing as to how those come to completion.
You you spend a lot of time in silence, right? I mean, is that something that, you know, you is that something because that's what you do in a monastery? I mean, that's what you do as a monastic nun. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. Um, but from what I've read from you, you spend a lot of time in silence. So is that meditation? Is it just being silent? Is it quieting the mind? Because your mind is curious and you put all these amazing things together and you dream about different stuff. And that's why you've lived the life you've lived. But did you spend a lot of time in silence when you were at the
Yes.
monastery?
Yeah, the lifestyle is one of silence. It's not a vow of silence, but the setup, the structure of the life is in silence. You know, silence is a word that has a lot of connotations to it. And I would say presently, I help people relax into the fullness of silence. And it involves meditation practices. It involves a lot of other things as well. And so I would say that part is true. But you know, when I look back retrospectively at, because we're so formed by those early years, right? Most of my really expansive illuminations happened when I was actually alone. And it was, even if it was a moment of being alone. I know in my first book, I have this story of Friday night pizza night, and I was alone setting the table, and I had this very dramatic illumination around things around that. And I won't get to the long story, but I think ultimately, when we have these deep awakenings, they are awakenings that happen with a certain solitary nature to them. So even if you're in a community event, and let's say you're doing some sacred ceremony or something that's collective meditation or something along those lines that's intentional and you're in the energy of it and you're in community, I think if you traced back where you had a moment of true presence, you would note that it happened in a solitary way. And there was a moment of what you might call silence, that it happened within. And I think what I have experienced in life, or I know what I've experienced, is that silence for me is the sounding of the uncreated. So I feel that I'm actually walking in silence all the time. So even as we're having this conversation, there's a way that the texture of what we're in, the container itself, is this vibrating silence. And what's coming into form is us being present together and us having a dialogue. And the bookshelf behind you and the really very stark contrast of the white walls behind me. You know, and so, but on a practical level, yes, 10 and a half years in the monastic life, the main sounds you have are chant, reading, prayer, and nature. And it's only one time a day for 45 minutes that you get together and talk. So yes, I did have a kind of a boot camp development space for being with myself in silence. Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of a forced silence integration method, but it's so I mean, there's like such an extreme to what our lives are now. Our lives are so noisy. Our lives are so much chatter, so much noise, so much stimulation, so much empty, just madness, right? I mean, people don't get still. People, not, I don't want to generalize, but most people don't find stillness, right? Stillness, silence, peace, whatever you want to call it. But we don't go there. And because of that, we probably don't find anything. And that's why we stay where we are. I mean, that's kind of how I see people.
Totally, right? We build patterns, and those patterns reinforce unconscious beliefs. They also are motivated, and this is something that I always love to acknowledge. Even when we're in patterns that distance us from the quality of our life that we would really like. Even in that, a lot of times our yeses to those patterns are being motivated by some good. For instance, we want security in this life. And whether we say it out loud or not, security means our closest relationships are stable, we have enough money, we have accomplished certain things with our gifts. You know, we define these terms in ways that are motivated by good. And yet, oftentimes, we have an unconscious force that's happening as well that is seeding our choices from a place of fear. And then in that process, we develop patterns that are not liberating for ourselves, don't fully understand why, because we've given our yeses for all the good reasons, and have the need to face the real deep fears. And we all are on that path of dissolving fear. Did you ever see that movie? Oh, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. It's with Meryl Streep and Al Brooks.
Meryl Streep and Mel Brooks?
Al Brooks.
Oh, I was gonna say that would have been an
I know that was,
interesting one with
what's
Mel
the name of
Brooks.
that movie? It's a really good movie. Because it brings a lot of humor into this conundrum. It's from 1991, so it's an old movie. But if you haven't seen it, Defending Your Life. It's called
Def-
Defending Your Life.
Defending Your Life. I'm sure she got an Oscar nomination because she gets one for every movie she does. She got
Probably
like
she was
97
brilliant in
Oscar
it.
nominations.
I
But no,
know.
I've never seen it, but maybe I'll watch it. Defending Your Life. All right. I
Yeah,
don't
and
I don't I don't watch a lot of stuff, but I'll watch Defending Your Life because you
or
told
even just
me.
watch the trailer to get a gist, because the whole premise is that when you die, you go to this place called Judgment City where you defend your life. And that sounds so severe and punitive. But the real humor in it is all you're doing is discovering whether you lived a life of fear or not.
Mm.
And it really pulls back the veil, and the entities, I guess you could call them angels, that are in human form, they're all there running it, and they're everybody has their own, uh, they're not a lawyer, but they're there to defend your case and all that. um, Albert dies, and he's riddled with fear. I mean, he really embodies like all these different forms of fear about like what everybody thinks about him, and did he do okay, and all of this. And his lawyer, who's this evolved being, he's like, well, you know, you little brains, that's what we call you people on Earth, you little brains. You only use 3 to 5% of your brain. And once you use 5%, you don't want to be on Earth anymore because Earth is so filled with fear and you choose to evolve. And Al Brooks is like, how much of my brain do I use? You know?
I don't
So,
even want to know how much of my brain I use because it's probably not a lot.
well, Meryl
There's
Streep,
plenty of space left, trust me.
it's really great. Yeah, you have to see her because Meryl Streep is actually free. She's free of all fear. So she embodies a human being that has really worked through their fears, and comes there just from a place of freedom. So you get this big contrast between the two of them.
I'm gonna have to watch that now because I mean
It's
that's so true, right? I mean, m- a lot of the reason people don't want to be silent or get into their head or have to face themselves is because of the fear of what they're gonna find when they get there, right? It's like I can't be honest with myself because that scares the hell out of me.
Totally,
Right?
totally. It is scary. It is scary facing ourselves. And that's why I think it's probably good to listen to podcasts like this, to have a spiritual mentor or a friend or a guide, to have community, because it lets us touch in on the other qualities we have of ourselves that are much greater, and that is courage. And when we discover that we can never lose that we are, we can relax into our process to realize that it's like the presence that we are, the soul that is really of the divine, is greater than anything that is lesser than that. And fear is lesser than that. And all the various misbeliefs and mistruths and traumas and all that, that they're all lesser than that. But if this is obscured from ourselves, if this big way that we are is hidden from ourselves, it can feel like the fears are bigger. Like that's where the buck will stop. And usually when we go right into the heart of it, we discover, oh, that's not true. Yeah.
And I think, because we are fearful of seeing ourselves or facing what's there, we bury ourselves in stuff.
Yeah.
We bury ourselves in material stuff, financial stuff, sexual stuff, addiction. We just bury ourselves in stuff so we don't have to feel. And it just makes it easier for a lot of people because it takes courage to face that. It takes courage to face maybe an addiction or bad diets or your spirituality, doing things that are not healthy for you, that go against your nature. We have a, I do. I fight my nature all the time. I mean, I know who I am. I know what my nature wants and what my nature believes, but I fight it. And I try not to. And like you said about having a mentor, I mean, I'm a real estate broker by trade. We have a real estate business, and I just do this because I love to meet people like you. But I've always had a coach. I had a real estate coach from when I very first got my license 35 years ago. I believe in having someone that you could bounce things off of, someone who could call you out on your BS, right? Someone who could help you face the things that you just don't want to sometimes by yourself.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. It's true. And adding to that, having that person that walks with you on your journey, they can also presence your greatness, presence that light within you that you're scared to see or you doubt. We're filled with doubt. Am I enough? Am I worthy? And we're filled with belief systems that tell us we should be suspicious of our very selves.
Mm-hmm.
So, having a companion as well calls us to task on the ways that we repeat old messages that we know are old. When we touch in on our true nature, something of the deliciousness of that, right? It
I
stays,
love that word, deliciousness.
it's going to stick with
Life can
you.
be so delicious if you
Yeah,
just let it.
yeah, totally.
I love that part. You touched on something there that that is so true, and I think having that person, I love the way you said that, having someone walk that journey with you, right? Because we have fear of success just as much as failure, right? We have fear of our spirituality. When you're being called to something like you were very early, you started accepting it and following it and trying to figure that out. But a lot of us have a challenge with spirituality. Like it's going to prevent us from things instead of expanding our things. Where some people find freedom in spirituality, other people fear that spirituality may take their freedom from them. So, like you said, I love how you said it. Just having someone that walks with you on their journey can hold your hand and help you say, "This is okay. Let this come to you. Stop fighting it."
Yeah, yeah, love that. Love that.
Yeah. Are
Yeah.
you gonna help me on my journey? Can you hold my hand?
You want me to?
'Cause I know that's what you do, right? I mean, you've done so much. It's like you never stop learning. The more I went deeper into Kimberly Braun, the more I just see, you're always evolving. I mean, you're always learning, you're always doing more. You find yourself where you didn't expect, right? It's like I thought I was just going to hang out here and chant for the rest of my life, but no, I'm at TED Talks, I'm building a monastery, I'm out coaching, I'm speaking to people. What the heck? Now I'm doing Reiki, now I got bowls going. I mean, what
It's true. It's
what
really
happened?
true. It's really true. I know, I agree. And yeah, you're right about that. I think because of my curiosity paying off, like rewarding me. My curiosity rewarded me.
Mm.
We have something of a primal nature within ourselves. And when we open up with courage to something, like my curiosity of what is life, what is truth, what is love, like these questions that are constantly dynamic for me, they paid off with good experiences enough that I trust these parts of myself. And I've grown to know that my whole life is really on the edge of my own truth. Gandhi said so well, my life is an experiment in the truth. And if we're really honest and willing to be honest, we'll all say that. It's all an experiment. And if I'm not mistaken, he did that in response to something that was pretty strong. They had organized some gathering to oppose something with salt, or something that was happening, and they were doing the nonviolent. And I think people came from all over the country. There were like 40,000 people that came. And what happened is, once they got there, some officials changed the law, did something that made their need to come together not exist anymore. And Gandhi, it's something along this, I'm paraphrasing it, but it gives you the gist of his authenticity. He said, well, send everybody home. Like, there's no reason for it. And the people around him were like, well, you can't do that. You still have to do what you said you were going to do. And he's like, not really, because there's no need for it anymore. And his response was, my life's an experiment in the truth. When the truth of the need changes, I have to change with it. And that's most authentic, rather than posturing that we need to have this nonviolent gathering and oppose something that we no longer need to oppose.
Mm.
Yeah. And again, you could look it up, and I probably got some of that wrong, but I love that invitation to us all. And it doesn't take these, I mean, some of the examples in my life are dramatic examples.
Mhm.
When we get down to it, each moment for us is monumental. It really comes down to the moment. So if the dramatic standing on the edge of your truth is you stopping in a moment and taking an exhale when you want to contract with anger around something, that's monumental. That's just as big. It doesn't look as big. It's not as seen by the public as big, but that's just as big. And our life is made up of these moments. So that's being on the edge of your truth. That's being willing to let go of what's holding you back and step into the unknown. How could I be different in this moment? How could I look at the moment differently? What is the moment wanting to show me that I'm not able to see yet?
Yeah. I've had, I'm the healthiest guy I've ever met in my life, and I've worked on it for many, many years to be very healthy, right?
Okay.
I drink all these concoctions, exercise. In any case, so I had two very weird health incidents happen to me. And so that was kind of the first one. I was really ticked off because I got diagnosed with cancer. I'm like, oh, heck
Oh,
no. No, I'm not going to have cancer. But it was a virus. It was HPV. It was, from a sexually transmitted disease, basically, is what the type of cancer I had. So it wasn't a traditional type of cancer. I said, okay, I feel better because I've fought my whole life not to have cancer, right? You could work to not have cancer. So that was weird. And then I had a cardiac arrest. And I'm like, dude, and the doctor said your heart's perfectly clear, no plaque, no cholesterol, no calcium. Your heart's great. You got a great heart. But you broke your heart with your brain.
wow.
And I thought, dude, that's crazy. And
Wow.
don't send me to go look something up like you just said. Well, look it up. I'm like, don't ask me to do that because I'll go down rabbit holes for like a month. I won't come back, right? Um, And so I sat back after the second. And the first incident, I was just mad. Like, how could I have gotten this? I've done everything to not get it. So what's the message? But the second one that just happened in February, I was like, you said, I was like, okay, what's the message here? Why did this happen? Why is the universe, God, spirit, whatever, why is someone telling me to stop what I'm doing? Right? Either I was going to stop die,
Mhm.
or I was going to stop what I was doing. So I had
Wow.
to sit back and go, what am I doing? And I realized I was putting massive stress on myself
Mm.
about some couple things that just didn't matter at all in the whole scheme of everything. So I've had to kind of step back from that. So what you said about that is so true. How we have to just take a breath, you know, and say, wait a minute. What is going on with this? What's the bigger message? What's the bigger picture? We can't just react to things. And I love how you said that. It's exactly perfectly true.
Love that. Love that reflection.
But life is an experiment. I mean, I love that too. Life is an experiment. No one gets out of here alive, right? So we're just a bunch of just little ants running around this planet, and our significance that we give to ourselves is so bizarre. It's such a bizarre thought that we give ourselves this significance when really we should give significance to pretty much everything else, because that's where all the power is. But we
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because I lead an online meditation series. You'll have to jump on my Patreon account or actually my YouTube channel. It should be there as a recording for it. But I did a day where what is significance? And I was in Mexico City that day, and I had just gone through Coyoacan, where Frida Kahlo lived, and Malinche lived, and I was really moved with the idea of significance and where it took me down this rabbit hole. And again, I don't identify as any lineage anymore, but I draw great inspiration from them all. And I was doing a reflection on the significance of the 12 hours that are recorded in history that mark Jesus being in at the Mount of Olives, being betrayed, being scourged, being convicted, being crucified, and dying. And that all pretty much happened within 12 hours. So when you look at it scholastically, which is how I was looking at it, and look at the impact and the significance that 12 hours has had on humanity. I mean, it's been unbelievable in the art, in the spirituality, in religions, in people's experiences, in prayer, in theological schools. And like you break open the impact of 12 hours and look how often in our lives 12 hours goes by. Like for me, that's such an example. And that's what I was exploring in this YouTube video is it's not exclusive. It's not like, oh, because that's special and I'm not. That's not the takeaway we're meant to have. The takeaway is if 12 hours could be that significant, how can you reframe your life to open up to the possibility of the significant of the moments of your life? You know?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and when you think about the time, how many hours ago that happened. I mean, you think about how
Right.
many hours is in 2000 years, right? I mean, it's like, and in the span of time, I mean, 12 hours is not even a grain of sand. It's like bizarre how minuscule that is, yet how impactful it was if you let it, if you absorb that. Now I've got to go down that rabbit hole and watch your YouTube video, and then I'm going to spend the next month on the 12 hours of Jesus because that's insane, right? When you think about it. And then you think of someone getting pissed off because they're 5 minutes late in their car because of traffic. And what they didn't realize is had they been 5 minutes earlier, they would have got hit by that bus and they would be
Yeah,
dead, right? I mean, it's like
great example.
you were saved. That was a gift for you. That time did that for you. Um, but yeah, that 12 hours thing to reframe how we take the significance of events that happen in our life
Yeah,
and reframe them, not necessarily in a positive way, right? I mean, reframe them in the reality that it is.
the neutrality, right? The spaciousness of it, I guess, would be an accurate word. You're right. Totally, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, boy, I don't know. People won't hear from me for the next 4 days now. I'm going to be down that rabbit hole that Jesus. I'm not even going to eat. I'm just going to be a guy I always forget to eat. The other thing you said that I love so much is that curiosity is rewarding. You know,
Right.
curiosity is rewarding, and God, we have so much knowledge at our fingertips. I mean, think about it. I mean, especially with AI now, right? Which is so scary. AI just scares me, but
Yeah.
when you think about the knowledge that we have, that you could just ask this little device in your hand anything, and basically anything throughout history will be answered to you in 1 second in 27 different ways,
Yeah.
right? So I wonder, does that hurt our curiosity, or has it helped our curiosity, or is it fake curiosity? Is all that stuff just BS because who says what they say is true, right?
Yeah.
How do we find our own truth? Maybe that's what I'm looking for. How do we find our own truths?
Right. You know, that's a really powerful question. And I tend to evade generalizations because what is beautiful about being alive and being you, and each person listening being you, is that you're given the opportunity to discover your way, period, that's unique to you. But
Wow.
what I believe is universal is the imperative to ask these questions and to care about the answers. So I think that's universal. And I think when we open up to these deeper questions, what is true for me? Or what practice could I begin in my life that allows me to be a little more open to possibility in my life? It could be just very simple things and really care about the answer and do what I saw a quote on a yoga studio wall years ago because I don't like the word discipline because so often it becomes punitive. But I loved this framing of it. Discipline is simply remembering what you want. So you ask the
Wait. What was that?
discipline is simply remembering what you want.
Wow.
So
Okay.
here's a great step for us all. What question is really within me today? What is really a deep desire that I have? And the answers will be unique. And then second, what is a choice I can make to support that desire or to discover that answer? Period. And be simple enough to stay true to what you want. I really long to feel more joy. I am noticing, and I'm not saying this of me, I'm just like making something up. Maybe that's a longing that's deep within you if you're listening. Boy, I would really love, I used to feel so much joy, and I don't really feel that joy anymore. I feel numb. So you pose the question, how can I recover my joy?
Mm.
And then you notice, is that the right question? You always know if it's the right question because something in you will stir a little bit. If you ask a question that's superficial or rote or isn't really true for you, it'll fall flat and you won't really care about it. But if it's true for you, there's going to be something. You'll get a niggling in your belly. You'll get a sense of brightness. You'll maybe tear up. You know, there's a whole range of responses. Then, when you know you got the right question, you can open up to the answer. Because I'm a firm believer you can't ask a question where the answer isn't already within you, pushing the question to get there.
Kimberly, wow. Okay. Just like four things just completely blew my mind. First of all, I started tearing up writing down how do I recover my joy because I've been asking myself that question for 5 years now. I ask it to myself all the time. How do I recover my joy? I mean, I lost my first wife 10 years ago, and it's been such a bear to get over her. And I talk to her all the time. I miss her like crazy. She was only 46 years old, died of cancer. Got together very young. She was 18, I was 21, and it's been really tough I'm remarried. Great wife. I I talk about this to her like I'm talking to you as this being filmed. But but there's something else that you said, which is just you said discipline equals remembering what you want. And I'm thinking, but you also see you have challenge with discipline. I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Here's a gal who spent 10 years chanting and being silent and only spending 45 minutes a day talking to someone else, and you have a challenge with discipline? I
I have a
don't think
chat.
so, my friend. Some people can't be quiet for 37 seconds without losing their mind.
Well, I love that, and thank you for that affirmation. I think what I have an issue with is the rule way discipline is considered. And I'm going to be moving a little as we come to the end of our podcast. Uh, Discipline can come off like, I got to do it. I got to get this schedule. I got to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I was so on fire with love. I mean, I was so impelled. I mean, I was on fire with love. And I just kept saying yes to that love. It organized my life into a very rigorous lifestyle. But that spark of that love was my whole motivation. So I didn't feel like I was disciplined because it felt effortless. It was discipline, but it felt effortless.
You talk about love so much in all of your work. Um, what does love, what does that mean to you? What does love mean to you?
I wondered if I should have that. I changed that word, coming to the center of being that is divine love. I changed that phrase, divine love, into a lot of different things. A lot of times I just say the word source. Uh,
Source? This word source?
yeah, S, capital S. I sometimes use that word instead. Eternal, essential nature, I use that. I use a lot of different words. Divine love to me is a very dynamic quality and expression from the eternal aspect of our nature. So my life's been very much like a love affair. I'm sure you probably got that. And therefore, my relationship with the core of my being has a love quality, which means there is a willing for good. So I believe that we came into form, we're consciousness coming into form, and that willing, that power of that act of coming into form is in many ways an act of love. There is a relational quality, there's a tenderness, there's an intimacy, there's a sensuality. It, like all the things that we commonly think of with love that I just mentioned, and connection, and so much more, satisfaction. Uh, those are qualities that are part of the agency of the eternal coming into form. They're inherent in the act of the coming into form because they're part of the motivation for it, the celebration of the divine celebrating itself as divine. What I mean, that resonates with me in a love language versus something that could be more abstract and theoretical sounding. Love is very, it gets you, right? It gets your heart. It touches you. And so that's what I would say I'm speaking of when I talk about divine love. But I could, and I oftentimes do, interchange that phrase with other phrases that are appropriate in the moment to whomever I'm talking to.
Why don't we love ourselves?
What might be your first hit on that?
I think my challenge when I find that I'm not loving myself, there's a lot of things. I think fear, um, not feeling that I'm not living up to what I'm put on the planet for, feeling inadequate. Um, I'm hard on myself a lot for that, feeling that I'm not, there's a purpose for me. This was even before the heart attack and the cancer, but I've always felt that there's a purpose for me to be here. And I guess I've always been mad at myself for not finding it, for not for not allowing it to appear by maybe doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing and not honestly what I'm supposed to be doing. I guess if that rambling sentence made any sense at all.
Yeah, well, when we have a sense that we have an urging, a stirring, a calling, and there's a gap in our minds or in our perception that we're not living out that calling, one of the things that we miss is that part of that process that is the fulfillment of the calling is the adventure of discovery. And because we tend to be judgmental and people that identify with the spiritual path are no less judgmental than anybody else, sometimes even more because you take life so seriously, right? We have enculturation, we have hidden beliefs, we have so many traumas that have reinforced this sense that we have to earn being good, that we have to prove something, that we have a responsibility to accomplish certain things. We have a ton. I mean, and that's just poking at the massive amount. And for you particularly, it would be a matter of more dismantling the dis-ease, the tension you're having around what seems to be a disconnect for you, and discovering where the real disconnect is. Because when we discover where the real disconnect is, there's usually a relaxation into it, meaning there's usually like oh, I really believe that I deserve to be punished. Or like there's some kind of something underneath all of that. And you haven't pulled back enough of the onion layers around it. Because one of the things, and I'm a banquet spirituality person, which means I don't shy away from the inner work, but I'm motivated by the fact that we can come to the work from a place of divine love. And when we have fruits of blame, guilt, shame, dis-ease, those are all signs that we're not coming from the place of ourselves that is the essential nature of ourselves. And that itself can then begin to soften the way we're grasping onto these things to try to figure it out. So we get flags. If you've got the fruit of joy, you're coming from your essential nature. If you've got the fruit of guilt, you're not coming from your essential nature. And the answer is going to come from when you're deeply connected with yourself. You don't get the answer to get there. You get there and the answer comes.
Please say that again.
The whole
Do
thing,
you
I guess.
remember? No,
Okay.
just that last part. You don't get there because I'm going to mess that up.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Do you remember what it was?
Right, right. I know exactly what I meant, but I'm trying to think of the exact words.
It's
You
just
don't get there to discover your essential nature. You drop into your essential nature to get the answer to your call.
love that. I just wanted to hear it one more time because I love it. And you know, the other thing that you touched on, which is has been smacking me in the head for the last 3 years. It started when I got the cancer, is dis-ease.
Right.
My soul is not at ease. So I got a disease. I got the disease of cancer. And then I got the disease with my heart because my soul is not at ease. So I have dis-ease. And I sat when I first got the diagnosis of cancer and I said, what is uneasy? Where's this dis-ease within me that's causing this cancer to be in me? And I went down some crazy rabbit holes. Um, I don't want to talk about me, but I just love that yeah, dis-ease. When our body and our soul is not at ease, it just creates so many challenges for us on so many levels.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Right.
You also said something back that I just want to come down to because I just loved it so much is opportunity to find our way. I loved that sentence. I've loved so many of your sentences, most anymore, but
Oh,
opportunity to find our way. I love that. I loved that sentence. Opportunity to find our way. We just don't give ourselves that opportunity much anymore, it seems like.
right. And yet we're having this conversation. So there is the chance then that we are hearing it, right? It's come into this conversation. So you and I are now hearing it, being reminded of it. If you're listening to the podcast, you're being reminded of this. And we don't have to lament that we haven't up to this point. That's not really the point of the journey. The point is to say yes um, when these realizations come to us and they resonate with us. Oh,
Mhm.
oh, okay, yeah.
I love that about saying yes. I love
Yeah.
that. Gosh, you've been so gracious with your time. I don't know where the space you're in and how much time they're allotting you, but I'm just so grateful for your time, Kimberly. You're wonderful. I just have so much that I've taken away from this.
Oh, I love
Forget
the
just the G.
conversation, and I love that we persevered. We did it. We did it.
I
We did
mean, just not even the 4 weeks I'm going to be going down the 12 hours of Jesus rabbit hole. But all the other things you talked about. I mean, the discipline to remind you what you want. I mean, discipline equals, remind you uh, of what you want was very powerful saying, I've never, I've never even heard discipline described that way,
Wow.
or I don't know anyone who's thought
Okay.
that way about discipline, right? Because discipline can be
Yes.
such a negative word, but it's not. And
It is a wonderful word.
oh, did someone take your
Oh,
spot?
somebody's
Are they
coming in for
kicking
the
you out of
party.
there?
I'm on a podcast right now. I will walk right out so you can have this no room. Problem. But you're done yes. With the room at noon. Yes. Great.
Oh my gosh,
Great.
I'm so sorry. I've kept you too long.
No, no,
You
no,
just
no. This is good.
you
This is
just got
good.
evicted from.
I did have a great time. But look at this though. I can stand here and now I've got
Oh my gosh, look at that beautiful view. All the books and the trees
oh
and
yes, I like
everything is glorious about that whole shot. So
I
I'm gonna
agree.
let you go before someone kicks you out of the library for being loud. So I'm just gonna finish with one last thought if I can, and then I'll let you go.
Of
Um,
course. I'm so grateful.
I end every podcast with one question. I lied earlier because I'm a liar. I said I only had one question, but I have two. The last question I have for you before we sign off is there a message or a thought or a saying or something that means a lot to Kimberly Braun that you would like to share with us before we go? What would that one last thought be for us before we're out of here?
Thank you. That is ever changing for me. But I would say that it- you're not alone.
Mm,
And even though this is a solitary journey, that we make the journey alone because we are only with ourselves on this journey. In the very core of our being, we're not alone. And the universe is here to reflect that it is here to celebrate us. Okay, so everything is on my website, kimberlybraun.com. If you listen to the podcast and you resonate and want to connect, I'm sure I would want to connect with you. I have books, I have CDs, I have an online community, I have a Patreon account where you can get free weekly videos and also a very low priced paid level for more. I lead retreats, and I've got a really great Sacred Sound Festival coming up in August. So if you love sound experiences, consider coming out to Colorado to experience that in August. You can find it all on my website,
And
blogs,
what is the website?
KimberlyBraun.com.
Easy peasy. All right, kiddo. Well, before you get arrested and thrown in the gulag, I'm going to sign off. Everybody, God, thank you so much, Kimberly. You're amazing. We just got some time with Kimberly Braun before she got arrested. Um, Please go to KimberlyBraun.com. She has her books, she has her coaching, her retreats. Everything's on there. And I mean, just 1 hour has already changed a bunch of my perspective. Imagine what you could do if you spent some more time with Kimberly Braun. So you're awesome. I just can't thank you enough, kiddo. I really
So
appreciate you being here. All right, guys, get out of there quick. Thanks, everybody. I'll see you. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.